January 2026 has just delivered the kind of television moment that publicists probably lose sleep over. If you've been keeping up with the long-running battle between the British media and Montecito's most talked-about residents, you already know tensions have been simmering for years. But what unfolded this week on Piers Morgan Uncensored felt like something entirely different. It wasn't merely another rant. It felt more like a calculated dismantling of a multi-million-dollar public image. Piers Morgan, the man who famously walked away from his role on Good Morning Britain because he refused to believe Meghan Markle's claims, returned to the spotlight wearing an expression of complete and utter vindication. But this time, he brought more than opinions. He came armed with receipts. His target was the official launch of Meghan's new Netflix lifestyle series, With Love, Meghan. And his reaction has essentially ignited the internet. The timing could hardly be worse for the Duchess. She's currently deep into a major global rebrand, attempting to transform herself from royal exile into the world's most relatable lifestyle icon. She wants to become your best friend, your kitchen inspiration, and your guide into a perfectly curated way of living. But Piers wasted no time swooping in. He didn't simply critique the series, he questioned why it even exists in the first place. He branded it the ultimate vanity project, a show where food takes a back seat while self-admiration becomes the main course. And while Meghan's supporters insist Piers remains obsessed, his latest takedown has pulled back the curtain on some uncomfortable realities surrounding how much of Meghan's carefully crafted, relatable image may actually be manufactured. Piers began with what many online are now calling the 10-minute rule. During his broadcast, he admitted he felt professionally obligated to watch the show. But then came a surprising confession. He couldn't actually get through it. He told viewers that within just 3 or 4 minutes, he felt as if his brain cells were disappearing. He eventually managed to endure 10 minutes, a feat he jokingly described as heroic, before finally giving up. Take a second to think about that. This is a Netflix production, created by a company that spends hundreds of millions of dollars figuring out how to keep audiences locked onto their screens. If an experienced media veteran can't survive 10 minutes of your flagship lifestyle series, you may have a retention issue that no amount of public relations can solve. Piers called it completely unwatchable. Not because it offended anyone, but because it felt empty. He argued that this wasn't truly a show about cooking or gardening. Instead, it was a series centered around Meghan watching herself cook and garden. Every shot, every camera angle, every guest appearance appeared designed around reinforcing one central message. Look how perfect I am. But the real moment of exposure arrived once Piers began examining the visuals. Throughout the trailer and opening episodes, viewers are shown Meghan standing inside a gorgeous, sun-filled kitchen. It captures the ideal California fantasy: warm, rustic, inviting, and lived in. The series presents itself as an intimate look into her personal Montecito life. But as Piers pointed out live on air, there was one major issue. It isn't her house. According to reports highlighted during the show, filming didn't actually take place inside the $14 million mansion she shares with Harry. Instead, production reportedly moved into an $8 million farmhouse nearby, owned by philanthropists Tom and Sherry Coppola. And this isn't some insignificant detail. It's a huge hit to the authenticity image Meghan appears desperate to build. Because if you're claiming to open both your heart and home to viewers, why avoid filming inside your real kitchen? Critics argue that this may be the ultimate manufactured move. It gives the impression that even her most personal moments are carefully staged. You can't tell audiences you're inviting them into your life with love from your home while using somebody else's property as a backdrop to play the role of domestic perfection. Piers argued that this exposes the deeply theatrical nature of the Sussex brand. They want the privacy of a fortress while also chasing the profits of reality television. And when those two ideas collide, you end up with a show filmed in a borrowed home that feels less like a family space and more like a furniture showroom. Then attention shifted toward a viral moment that even some of Meghan's most loyal supporters found difficult to ignore. The scene involved actress and producer Mindy Kaling during what appeared to be a relaxed conversation. At one point, Mindy casually joked that people probably wouldn't expect Meghan Markle to eat at Jack in the Box. It was simple, harmless, and relatable. But Meghan immediately interrupted. "It's so funny that you keep saying Meghan Markle," she corrected. "You know, I'm Sussex now." The awkwardness in that moment was impossible to miss. Here was a woman standing in a California kitchen trying to present herself as a down-to-earth lifestyle host, yet simultaneously correcting her billionaire friend to ensure her royal title was used correctly. Piers immediately pounced. He pointed out what he saw as a massive contradiction. Meghan and Harry spent years telling the world they disliked the royal institution. They spoke about pressures, restrictions, protocols, and feeling trapped by royal life. Then they moved to America in search of freedom. And yet, the moment cameras begin rolling, Meghan is insisting that people call her Sussex. Piers, who actually grew up in England's county of Sussex, wasted no time mocking the moment on air. He pointed out that Sussex is an actual place, a county filled with real people, real communities, and real history. It isn't some trendy brand label to slap onto jars of jam or use as social currency among friends in Montecito. He also highlighted another detail. Meghan has probably spent less than 6 hours total in the actual county of Sussex throughout her entire life. So to insist on that title while filming a California-based cooking series wasn't merely strange. To Piers, it bordered on delusion. To really understand why this feud has reached such a boiling point in 2026, you have to rewind all the way back to where the story first started. A night in London in 2016 that Piers has repeatedly described almost like a movie scene. Before the world knew Meghan as a duchess, she was simply an actress appearing on a cable drama called Suits. According to Piers, she reached out to him on Twitter and said she was a fan of his work. The two exchanged messages for months. Eventually, while she happened to be in London, they agreed to meet for drinks at a local pub. Piers recalls the evening as a genuinely enjoyable one. The pair spent nearly 2 hours talking over dirty martinis, and he said he found her witty, intelligent, and charming. At the end of the night, he put her in a taxi. That same cab reportedly took her to the gathering where she would meet Prince Harry for the first time. And then came the disappearing act. According to Piers, he never heard from her again. No text, no call, not even a thank you. The moment she entered royal circles, he says he was discarded instantly. For Piers, this wasn't just some minor personal rejection. He viewed it as a glimpse into her character. For years, he has argued that Meghan is a calculated social climber, someone who sees people as stepping stones on a path upward. So when he watches her Netflix series in 2026 and sees her correcting people about royal titles, he doesn't see a woman finally embracing her voice. He sees the exact same person from 2016, only now using worldwide attention as fuel for a growing business empire. But the drama of 2026 isn't confined to television studios. It's also unfolding in real life. Recently, the Sussexes embarked on what many critics have called a faux royal tour through Australia. The trip was intended to be a major success, a return to the country where their original 2018 tour had been viewed as a triumph. Only this time, the atmosphere felt very different. During a visit to a women's shelter in Melbourne, Meghan attracted headlines because of what she wore. A $1,200 dress paired with roughly $48,000 worth of jewelry, including a watch said to have belonged to Princess Diana. Critics immediately questioned the optics. Many felt there was something deeply disconnected about arriving to support vulnerable communities while wearing nearly $50,000 worth of luxury accessories. But the larger controversy exploded after Meghan spoke to a group of students and claimed she had been the most trolled person on earth over the past decade. She described enduring years of nonstop online abuse and cyberbullying. But in Melbourne, where tickets to hear the couple speak reportedly reached prices as high as $2,200, the victim narrative appeared to lose some of its impact. Piers and several other commentators quickly pointed out what they saw as an obvious contradiction, charging thousands of dollars for speaking events centered around cruelty and bullying, while living behind mansion gates and wearing designer labels created a difficult image to reconcile. And her statement about being the most trolled person in the world soon became another major flashpoint. Few deny that Meghan has experienced harsh criticism online, but many Australians in 2026 seemed less captivated by personal struggles and more focused on what looked, to them, like someone profiting from status while simultaneously criticizing the attention that status creates. Meanwhile, the business side of the Sussex machine has also found itself under growing pressure. Recently, Meghan rebranded her lifestyle company, shifting from American Riviera Orchard to simply As Ever. The move followed trademark complications and several legal roadblocks. Her business ambitions have expanded into products ranging from strawberry jam to dog treats and handcrafted candles. But the launch process has hardly been smooth. Reports emerging in June 2025 suggested many of her artisan products were actually being sourced through larger manufacturing operations, including a rosé wine partnership that critics said felt less like an authentic venture and more like another celebrity collaboration. Piers had plenty to say about As Ever during his broadcast. He focused on an image showing a single jar of jam sent by Meghan to an ITV weather presenter. Notably, the same presenter connected to the controversy that originally led to Piers walking off set years earlier. To him, it looked less like a business launch and more like personal pettiness wrapped in marketing. He argued that building a luxury empire around jam jars and decorative flower sprinkles becomes difficult when your public image is rooted in conflict and controversy. He also pointed toward another interesting detail. Products frequently sell out within minutes. But according to critics, the actual quantities available seem suspiciously small. A classic scarcity strategy designed to manufacture excitement. Then Piers asked the question that may have cut the deepest. Is anyone actually buying the jam because they want to eat it? Or are they simply purchasing a souvenir from the ongoing Sussex saga? Which brings us to perhaps the most revealing statistic of all, in 2026, the beginning of a popularity death spiral. According to the latest polling numbers from Britain, Harry and Meghan's approval ratings have continued to fall. They are now consistently polling below Prince Andrew, a man associated with some of the most serious controversies in modern royal history. For a couple that has built so much of their public image around influence, purpose, and having a voice, ranking beneath a royal who was effectively pushed out of public life is a deeply alarming sign. Piers seized on this point during his show, arguing that public sentiment has evolved beyond anger. People aren't just frustrated anymore, they're exhausted. The fatigue has officially set in. Audiences have watched the documentaries, listened to the podcasts, and read the memoirs. There are no major revelations left because everything has already been dissected, discussed, and repeated to the point of burnout. Piers also argued that America may be reaching a similar point. At first, the royal drama fascinated audiences. The story was fresh, emotional, and impossible to ignore. But shifting into lifestyle content hasn't delivered the same reaction. Americans love redemption stories. What they struggle with is a combination of victimhood and extraordinary privilege. Because once you're filming inside a borrowed $8 million kitchen while insisting people use royal titles, that every person relatability begins to disappear. The exact quality that made figures like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart household names. Piers noted that in the United States, the reaction to the Netflix series wasn't even outrage. It was indifference. A shrug. People are already moving on to whatever comes next. Meanwhile, the shadow of the infamous 2021 walk-off still hangs over nearly every statement Piers makes. He reminded viewers that he walked away from what many considered a dream job because he refused to believe Meghan's claims surrounding her mental health struggles and the accusations involving racism within the royal family. At the time, he faced widespread criticism. More than 58,000 complaints were filed against him. But years later, following investigations and multiple shifts in the couple's public narrative, Piers increasingly sees himself as someone who may have simply been ahead of the curve. The man who was right too soon. He told viewers he no longer has anything to lose. And in his mind, that makes him Meghan's most dangerous critic. He no longer answers to television executives. He doesn't have a corporate board dictating boundaries. On Piers Morgan Uncensored, he now operates with complete freedom, free to question every carefully staged image and every emotional moment he sees as manufactured. One of Piers's strongest arguments centered around the highly polished nature of the Netflix promotional material. He focused on a particular image showing Meghan laughing alongside a group of friends in a garden setting. To an average viewer, the photo appears effortless, a warm and spontaneous snapshot of genuine connection. But Piers told viewers to examine it more carefully. He pointed toward the likely presence of professional lighting equipment positioned just outside the frame, creating that perfectly timed golden hour effect. He highlighted the coordinated outfits, the carefully arranged poses, the precision of everyone's placement. Everything, he argued, had been designed for maximum visual impact. Those aren't friends, Piers claimed. They're props. He suggested that the show's social world had been assembled specifically for the camera, much like the borrowed home itself. He even noted that several people portrayed as close friends hadn't publicly appeared alongside Meghan in years, at least not until filming began. To Piers, this performance of friendship became one of the most revealing elements of the series, because in his view, it attempts to create the appearance of warmth where business strategy may be the real objective. He compared the project less to a documentary and more to a luxury advertisement, lifestyle content without much actual life. So where exactly does this leave the Sussex empire? As 2026 continues, reports suggest the $100 million Netflix agreement may be approaching its final chapter, placing enormous pressure on the couple to finally deliver a genuine blockbuster. But with love, Meghan hasn't become the cultural sensation many expected. Instead, it has transformed into a magnet for criticism centered around authenticity, image, and status. Piers has successfully reframed the narrative. Rather than presenting the show as a gift to audiences, he's painted it as a frantic effort to remain culturally relevant. He's focused relentlessly on what he sees as the contradiction, the gap between the woman who wants to bake bread beside you and the woman reminding people to use her title. And now Meghan finds herself in a difficult position. If she ignores Piers, his version of events continues to dominate online conversation. If she responds, she gives him exactly what he wants: more conflict, more attention, more headlines. Piers has essentially turned himself into a permanent presence in her story, a figure from the past that simply refuses to disappear. He's betting that eventually audiences will prefer his blunt, uncensored style over carefully curated positivity. So when we look at those images of Meghan standing in a borrowed kitchen holding jars of as-ever jam, perhaps the real question becomes this: what exactly is the shocking truth? Is Piers Morgan simply a bitter man unable to move on from one evening in 2016? Or is the Duchess of Sussex brand itself built like a house of cards, constructed on borrowed homes and carefully staged relationships? Because the cracks are beginning to show. When one of the world's most recognizable media critics publicly calls your show unwatchable, and the numbers suggest audiences may be turning away, it raises a larger question. How much longer can the Sussex name continue carrying the weight of a billion-dollar image? For now, Piers had the final word. He ended his broadcast with a remark that stayed with many viewers long after the cameras stopped rolling. He said fame can be a fickle beast, and if you build your identity around victimhood while living a life that resembles royalty, eventually the world may stop listening to both narratives. According to Piers, the real revelation hidden inside the Netflix series wasn't a cooking lesson or a gardening trick. What may be even more shocking than the borrowed mansion or that uncomfortable title correction is how this entire 2026 relaunch appears to be unraveling in the business world. Industry insiders have reportedly started whispering about a serious identity problem surrounding the As Ever brand. Because sending 50 jars of jam to celebrity friends is one thing, building a trusted global business operation is something entirely different. Piers argued that while Meghan is attempting to market a handcrafted, authentic lifestyle, the reality increasingly resembles a corporate strategy meeting desperately trying to manufacture personality. Reports have also surfaced suggesting that several high-level executives have stepped away from the project over the past 6 months, allegedly citing concerns about a difficult workplace environment. And once those reports emerged, Piers immediately connected them back to accusations from years earlier involving bullying allegations. From his perspective, the pattern itself hasn't changed. Only the products have. But there's another part of this story that often gets overlooked. Prince Harry. While Meghan focuses on lifestyle content and borrowed kitchens, Harry remains caught in an ongoing legal fight with the British Home Office over security concerns. And by 2026, that contrast is becoming harder and harder to ignore. On one side, you have a man standing in London courtrooms arguing that he faces constant threats. On the other, you have a woman in California promoting rosé wine and offering gardening advice. Piers argued that this split-screen reality says more than words ever could. To him, it suggests the couple may be moving down very different paths. He even argued that Harry increasingly appears less like an equal partner and more like a supporting character inside the Meghan Markle show. And according to Piers, that tension may eventually become the very thing that brings the Sussex brand undone. Because maintaining a united image only works for so long when one person seems focused on battles while the other is focused on lifestyle deals. Yet perhaps the most revealing element in this entire saga has been the silence coming from the royal family itself. By 2026, King Charles and Prince William seem to have embraced a strategy of complete invisibility whenever Montecito drama emerges. No responses, no reactions to interviews, no acknowledgement of the jam, and apparently no interest in watching Netflix either. Ironically, that silence may actually be the most powerful move of all, because it removes the one ingredient Meghan arguably needs most to remain at the center of public attention: conflict with the monarchy. Without that tension, she becomes another celebrity trying to compete inside an already crowded California spotlight. Piers summed it up with a line that many viewers felt landed perfectly. He argued that Meghan is learning the difficult reality that once the royal family stops talking about you, eventually the rest of the world may stop listening too. Ultimately, this 2026 takedown is about far more than Piers Morgan holding on to a personal grievance. It's about something larger, a broader cultural shift. People are growing tired of polished perfection and carefully curated images. They're searching for something that feels real, even if it's flawed and messy. And by placing layers of distance between herself and audiences through borrowed spaces and perfectly managed presentation, Meghan may have accidentally exposed the very thing she was trying hardest to conceal: that the real Meghan still remains a mystery, maybe even to herself. And as Piers prepares for his next broadcast, the bigger question may no longer be whether Meghan responds. It may simply be whether anyone is still paying attention if she does. Because the illusion hasn't merely started cracking. By 2026, it may have completely shattered. And if you've stayed with us all the way through this breakdown, you already know that the truth often hides in the details people work hardest to keep out of sight. From the ghosting story of 2016 to the infamous unwatchable 10 minutes of 2026, the Duchess's journey has become one of the most talked about stories of our era. But now, with ratings slipping and as ever still trying to establish itself, one final question remains. Is this truly the ending, or just another carefully staged cliffhanger? Drop your thoughts below and give your final verdict. Is Piers Morgan the villain in this story, or is he the only one saying what others won't? And don't forget to share this with anyone convinced they already know the full story, because this conversation may only be getting started.